Hi, everyone. Thanks for listening to The Gold Derby Show. I'm co-host Christopher Rosen, news director here at Gold Derby. And if you're a fan of our show and what we've been doing for the past 300 or so episodes, I've got some good news. In the coming weeks, we're going to make our podcast even better, starting with the name. Soon, this show will go by the title of Awards Magnet, and we'll be making some cosmetic changes to our feed too, including a new logo and better production and music. It's all to provide you, the listener, with a more engaging and exciting audio experience. And better yet, as you may have noticed, we've added an additional weekly episode, our mailbag episode, on Fridays. Myself and co-host and all-around genius Joyce answer your emails. So reach out to us at slugfests@goldderby.com to become part of the show and let us know what you think. Meanwhile, stay tuned for Awards Magnet, coming soon to this feed right here. You don't have to change a thing. We so appreciate your support, and we hope you tell 10 friends to listen as well. Now, stay tuned for the show. Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce. And Joyce, we're heading into Thanksgiving.
What are you thankful for this week,
this
much. Year?
Wicked.
Not Gladiator?
I don't know. I was talking about this with a friend. Which is better? We talked about this too. I keep going back and forth. I'm terribly vexed.
Did you see either of them again this weekend?
I did not.
Me either.
I'll say this. I will see Wicked again very soon, including maybe before this even, maybe the day this is up, because we're recording this on Monday. Probably see Wicked again. I do not know when I'll see Gladiator 2 again. None of my real life friends are interested in seeing this movie, which is maybe a bad sign.
Fascinating. I know several people in real life who want to see both. But none of them want to see both movies. It's like one or the other.
I think we've talked about it. We've dunked on the Glickett idea several times.
It's not Barbenheimer.
It's not, because of Barbenheimer. It was, I'm going to see both of these movies, and it was like, which should I see first? This is like, I'm going to see Wicked, or I will see Gladiator, or Glad-2-ator, excuse me, and never the twain shall meet. It seems.
Yes.
I will say this: my wife went to see it over the weekend, so she's seen it now 3 times, and she loves it. But it was a packed theater, and the theaters around here do not get packed.
Well, how many of those people filmed the movie?
I don't know that one. That was a hot topic, Joyce, this weekend.
Very hot.
My take was: you ever see the movie Stripes?
Yes.
Lighten up, Francis. That's my take.
It's annoying, it's stupid, and it shouldn't happen, but it's just gonna, like, there's no way to stop it unless you make people, drop off their cameras, their phones, before go inside the theater.
My take was, I don't think it should happen. But
it should not happen at all, but you can't stop them from doing it.
The outrage from the online brigade, very over the top and performative.
I don't think it's performative. I think they genuinely feel that way, but It's like, this is how they can voice it, and it does come off sanctimonious, but I don't think it's performative.
Okay.
Because
that's fair.
Like, it is something that is shitty and stupid and shouldn't happen.
Okay, that's fair. You're more nihilistic that it's just going to happen, so why not?
Yeah, it's going to happen. It sucks. But that's the age we live in, that people treat. I mean, I don't even think it should be happening at concerts, because, like, you're not actually enjoying the show then.
I think of this all the time. I don't go to a lot of concerts, but when I do, it's just a wall of phones.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'd rather just watch this and then forget about it.
Yes.
Or experience it in the moment than have to watch it through my phone.
Live in the moment. No one can live in the moment anymore.
Live in the moment. That's a great message. We're going to get to the big releases this week, Joyce. There's so many.
Are there, though?
But first, we're going to talk about New York Film Critics Circle, which is voting next week before we record again.
It's happening on a Tuesday, December 3rd. It's normally on a Friday, but last year they went on a Thursday, and now it's on a Tuesday.
I'm loving it. I can't wait. I know many people in New York Film Critics Circle, and some of them I'm friends with.
Yes, we know this. Jordan
Hoffman being one. I consider him a good friend, Joyce.
But yeah, first one's out the gate, as usual.
We were going to do a quick preview of these, just for the laughs. Last year, I think, or we've always done this, I feel like. We usually have them pretty dead to rights.
Well, we've already talked about them for the last, 2 months, in that Nickel Boys will probably win.
Okay, so Nickel Boys, a major movie, Joyce. It's major.
How major?
Very major. Multiple members of the New York Film Critics Circle have used major in their raves.
It's kind of shocking that Amazon MGM hasn't used that as a pull quote.
There's still time. It doesn't come out for a few weeks.
So, but just major on the
major
poster.
So I think it will win. We both think this, and we've thought this for months, that it will win Best Picture.
How many do you think? So they don't normally do sweeps. I think most films just win 2 or 3. So it could win director, obviously, from Ramel Ross. Cinematography, that's already 3. I think Carol was the last one to win 4.
Well, here's what I was wondering. I feel like cinematography, it will win also because of the POV originality of it. So picture and cinematography. I was wondering, does Ramel Ross actually win?
He doesn't need to. I don't think he will win screenplay.
Well, I thought maybe Sean Baker would win screenplay.
You know what I was thinking?
Tell me.
A double win for Justin Kuritzkes for Challengers and Queer. Because a lot of people, I don't love Challengers.
And where else is it going to win?
Exactly.
Okay, so he wins the double screenplay for Queer and Challengers. Maybe Sean Baker director then? I feel like Anora's going to at least win one of these big ones.
Maybe. They could also do Mikey to cover Anora.
So they could do that. But also, what if they did, I don't even know, Nicole Kidman or Demi Moore?
They could. I think actress is Mikey, Demi, Nicole, who has never won one of the big 3 trifectas, and Marianne Jean-Baptiste.
That one feels possible too.
They do Mike Lee.
And they love that movie.
So I feel like those are actress contenders. Okay.
And then actor, Slim Pickens. Last year they went with Franz Rogowski, who is not expected to win for Passages. But it was similarly a year where there was a lot of mainstream actor options. And then they didn't like any of those. So what is the actor this year?
Well, we've talked about how Adrian Brody could sweep.
Yes. But I'm also not sure that they love that movie.
They don't need to love the movie to give it one award.
If it's not Adrian Brody, then who is it?
They that could be their surprise, left field category, Friends last year too. But I feel like it'll probably be Adrian, and the cool pick would come elsewhere.
If they go cool pick here, I'll give you 2 people who I think it could be. Sebastian Stan for both, but probably more different man with that group, but they do both because they mentioned both. And Hugh Grant for Heretic.
I don't think I could see Seb a little bit, but I don't know if they do Hugh. I think actor is the one I'm not thinking about these a lot, but actor is the one that I'm thinking the least about.
For supporting actor, it feels just Kieran, no doubt. I think he's going to sweep all of these critics ones.
He could, or this is another spot where they could cover Anora with Yura Borisov too.
Maybe. So. And then for supporting actress, this is where they've had fun, Joyce. This is usually the fun one for them. Keke Palmer.
Well, it's this or actress, actually.
Right. Keke Palmer, Regina Hall, past winners here, right?
No, that's actress. Regina Hall.
Oh, actress was Keke Palmer too. She was lead. Right. You're right. I forgot.
We had a run in actress here with Regina Hall, Lupita Nyong'o, and Sydney Flanagan and Lady Gaga.
Right. And Lady Gaga.
And then none of them got Oscar nominations, remember?
Right. So that would make maybe Demi or somebody like that. But then supporting, then what are they going to do? This is where I was like, there's many different options here.
Supporting, they could do, like we've discussed before, Natasha Lyonne, who's like cool and like somewhat in the race conversation this year, but dark horse, you know?
Definitely. Get her back into the conversation, right? Like use this to
and then if they don't do Demi, they could also do Margaret Qualley here too as like a cool pick. So
what about Ariana Grande for Wicked?
It could, like a lot of them like Ariana, that would also be a cool pick.
It would.
Right? It'll be more like Lady Gaga.
It would definitely be like Lady Gaga winning for House of Gucci.
Well, remember, like now they get a lot of flack for having given it to Lady Gaga for Gucci because they just wanted her at the dinner.
Clearly there is some of that. This is an event for this group.
Yeah, the dinner will be in January.
Right. I wonder if I'll get to go again, Joyce.
Front row seat, front table.
That was great. Last year, popping pics of Marty and the Flower Moon folks. Last year they went pretty mainstream. Oppenheimer, obviously, Nolan won director, Kills Flower Moon won picture, Devon Joy Randolph. Not bad.
Yeah, and Lily and Charles Melton, who we knew was going to be like the cool pick.
Right.
So
I look forward to seeing these roll out to the Sydney Falco Twitter account on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Next Tuesday.
It'll take like 2 hours. How many rounds do you think they'll go in certain categories?
I don't know. This year is tricky. I mean, I think like supporting actress, there could be many rounds. There's so many different options they could do. I think some of the categories, I wouldn't be like best actor. I could actually see just being quick because there's not a lot of options. So even if there's like one or two people, maybe it kind of coalesces itself around like Adrian Brody or whoever.
Remember 2 years ago when they gave director to SS Rajamouli?
Yes. How could I forget?
Do you think they'll do something like that here with like All We Imagine Is Light or something? You know?
The thing is, I thought like RRR felt like it was a breakthrough for that group. Like they really love that. They're different
types of movies, but it's like they could still back something that's like critically acclaimed. You know, RRR is more populist.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it would be. What would be the surprise there that they would back? I don't know. Nosferatu?
It could be I mean, if it's going to be an international, I mean, All We Imagine is not international, but something like that, or like Seed of Sacred Fig, you know?
I just am
not necessarily in director, but just like one of
maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I look forward to finding out, though, Joyce.
Yeah, and then that'll kick off December, and all the Critics Awards, dozens of regionals.
I can't wait to see
LA is the following Sunday, so it'll be right after.
They have LA does a lunch, I think.
We all know about the lunch.
They love their lunch. LA loves a lunch. Yeah, I'll be curious to see then how LA responds to New York. I don't know if it's a competition, but I kind of think it is.
Yeah, but sometimes they still do the same, like they pick the same thing if they just love it, you know? So
it's also a little different because LA has obviously the genderless acting.
Well, that's for acting, but like if like best movie,
right?
Like it's like if they just like it, then
like Tar, right? Like something like that. Obviously, movies that will probably not be mentioned by this group. Some of them coming out this week, or at least one of them. Moana 2, Joyce, the big movie.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Have you seen Moana 2 yet?
I have not, and I don't know when I'm going to see it.
We're gonna go. Me and Mike, we're ready to see it.
Is she excited?
I think she's a little excited. She's honestly still weighing on Wicked. I'll tell you this though. So I was talking to one of my dad friends, and we were like, "Got to see Moana 2, but worried about the music because the original songs are great. Lin-Manuel Miranda just crushing it.
He should have won,
and just killed it. Not here for these, right? It's a new songwriters. Lynn's doing Lion King. Barlow and Bear, right, are the songwriters who did the unauthorized Bridgerton musical, which I can't say I was super familiar with, though I did read about the many legal tangles it had. Anyway, they released the soundtrack on Friday. I listened to some of the songs. Pretty solid. That was my take. And I played it for my daughter, and she was also kind of into at least one of them, which is the Beyond song. That is one of their top contenders. Yes.
I have not listened to that. So it's kind of, it's hard to say that it's sneaking up on us quietly because it's a Disney sequel to a huge hit, but it does kind of feel that way. And in the wake of, you know, like a 6-week press tour by Gladiator 2 and Wicked, right now it's like all of a sudden like Moana 2 is here.
And it's expected to do incredibly well.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah, I'll see. I will see. The original is really good. I actually think it's like a really good movie.
Yeah.
So my hopes for the quality of the sequel are keeping with the quality of sequels. So I'm not expecting it to be better, just expecting it to be fine.
Yeah, I think it's probably like the early reactions indicate that. Like, I don't know. I also don't need a sequel to this. Like, obviously I know why they make the sequels to this, but I didn't need a sequel to this. So,
you know, I thought that maybe with Inside Out too, though, and that was great.
I like Inside Out too, but I think I still prefer the first one.
Yeah, probably true. I think the first one is a little more special, but the second one is still probably the best version of the second one that it could have possibly been. We won't know this until we hear what Lin has done with the Lion King songs. But do you think there's room in best? There is room, but would you expect there to be both of these Disney musical, like animated musicals, represented in best original song? Should we just save 2 of the slots there?
I mean, you can.
I know we can, but are you going to, or do you think?
I mean, you did it already. So
I did it, but I changed my mind.
Why? Whatever you replaced it with Twisters.
I did. I replaced it with Luke Combs' absolute banging Twister song. Ain't No Love in Oklahoma.
With the Disney songs, it also depends on like how popular they are. Like they don't need to be like Let It Go popular, but it just kind of needs to be like identifiable as like the song from the movie, you know?
Correct. Now, last year at this time, Disney rolled out Wish. Remember Wish, Joyce?
I do not. When is that coming out?
I think in a few years.
Okay.
Songs from Wish, gotta say, not bad. My daughter really liked them. Her friends really liked them. The movie completely not it. Just like not it at all. So it went nowhere with the songs.
Moana 2 is not going to have that problem.
It's definitely going to be much more well-received than Wish was. So I think the Beyond song would be the one to get in. I also listened to Can I Get a Chihu, which is like Dwayne Johnson doing Lin-Manuel cosplay of You're Welcome.
Sure.
Not on first listen, only listened once, not You're Welcome, which remains an all-time classic Disney song.
Well, that's probably why they're going with Beyond.
Well, they're both being submitted, though.
But, like, you know, it's like Beyond.
They're both there, though. But yes, it's just Beyond. No, Beyond sounded really good. The other thing before we get to the other, so we were going to talk about 2 other movies that are way more limited release, Joyce. But I wanted to mention September 5 was supposed to come out Friday.
Black Friday.
And now not coming out Friday.
Yeah, last week Paramount moved its release date and also Better Man's release dates. So now September 5 is opening in limited on December 13th. And then going wide in January on Oscar nominations day, January 17th. So
I took this as like when Nickel Boys moved, I think we both were like, great choice, because it was coming out in October. It felt like it was already supposed to come out and there was no buzz or interest in it at all. But if they pushed it to December when it would kind of rack up some of these critics wins that we're expecting, it's a better rollout. I feel very similar about this move for September 5, which felt like it was going to get absolutely, not that it matters that it would get lost behind Gladiator and Wicked and Moana, but it would have just gotten absolutely blown away by these other movies, right? Like completely ignored basically in the cultural discourse.
Even if those movies were not coming out or have not come out last week and were not coming out this week, like I think it's just a bad date in general. Like it's Black Friday and like Thanksgiving week movies are normally like family-centered like blockbusters. You like Moana too, right? Like, or, you know, like Wicked and Gladiator too. Like, it's not this, you know, like newsroom thriller opening limited release.
It's not.
So
I think my take on September 5, which we both have, I think, moved out of our best picture picks, right? Did you put it back in or no?
How can I put it back in?
You never
took it out for Wicked. How can I put it back in?
Never make any changes. I wanted to put it back in. My take on September 5 is similar in a way to Sing Sing, which is a movie that has been not widely seen. And obviously Sing Sing's already out, but just bear with me here. Not widely seen, but the people who see it seemingly really love it. I don't actually know anyone who saw September 5 in like media, because real people probably haven't seen it, and was disappointed. I think the worst I've seen was like, it's good. And so I feel like if people see the movie, it's going to really respond. And the takes are, especially with Academy members and especially older Academy members, like if they see this movie, they will really love it and respond to it. And so if the challenge is getting people to the movie, but I wonder if that'll end up being a challenge. And if it isn't. You
mean people as in regular people or voters?
No, voters. It doesn't.
I don't think it's a challenge for voters. I think I wouldn't even say general audiences, because I don't think most like of the general public even know this movie exists.
No.
But I think a lot of like Oscar people, like awards nuts, obviously know this movie exists, and I think a lot of them have a bad faith reading on it.
Well,
so I think it's hard to convince those people to see the movie. I don't think it'll be hard to convince voters to see the movie.
Okay, that's fair. So then do you think I guess my thing is then, we've talked about like Nickel Boys and The Substance somewhat as being like a somewhat polarizing movies, or the idea is like, and even Sing Sing in this too. The people who love it will love it enough to give it number one votes, and maybe that pushes it in. Is September 5 in that category, or is it more like it's just going to get in?
I don't think it's a number one movie. I think it's more of a consensus movie.
Okay. And then to be a consensus movie, then what do you think it needs? Like mass saturation then among voters?
Yeah, it would need like mid-range rankings.
Okay.
I don't think I mean, all these movies will have some number ones. I don't think it'll have a lot number ones, but I think it needs more, like a lot of like 4s and 5s, not, you know, like 10s.
Okay. And so we're not right now thinking is not a lot of number ones, or 4s and 5s even, excuse me.
Well, it's because like I've said before, I think it's hard to deal with some of these movies when they're not out yet, because I think that's how a lot of people following the race judge the viability of these movies. So it's being delayed, which like on paper looks bad. Right. But like for the actual awards, as long as it's being seen by the people voting in these voting bodies, that's all that matters. Right. So it just feels like there's a disconnect if it does end up getting like nominations at places before it even comes out. Right, that it's like, why are people like they're voting for this movie and it's not out yet, and then people think it's about something that it's not.
Interesting. Do you think it'll do well? So now we'll have the Globe nominations before September 5 comes out. Do you think this is a Globes movie?
I don't have it getting in anywhere there. I wouldn't be surprised if it got in anywhere, but I think it's hard, even with 6 slots.
Would it have been an old Globes movie?
I don't even think it would have been an old Globes movie.
I don't either.
So,
interesting. We'll see.
Like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it got in like somewhere, but I think it would be a movie that would benefit had it already been out, like it already been released like last month, and then it could generate like momentum. Like I think that would have positioned it better to get nominations, like, or you'll feel better about it getting nominations and predicting it. But I think because it's not out, it's harder to say.
The momentum thing is interesting because I think you're right in that my take is like, we've been talking about this movie for literal months, right? I think we saw it in September, and one of the things I think I've seen is this movie could be the type of film when people see it, they're going to go in arms crossed, or like they have preconceived notions about it because like they don't want to like it or they're expecting whatever. And then they watch it and they're like, oh, it's actually pretty great. And it was so entertaining. And I could see a lot of the response being, oh my God, it's so much better. Like liking it even more, like thinking that, oh, it's better than I thought will make people like think it's even better than it is. That kind of thing. You know, sometimes that you could have that reaction when you're thinking something's going to be not great and then it is. So yeah, if it had a couple of months of runway to get those reactions rather than just dropping in December, that's interesting. That could make it, that makes sense.
Yeah, because so it's only been at festivals so far, and it's done well at festivals, but it's not like one of like the headline grabbing titles.
It's not Nickel Boys or Honora or Amelia Perez.
Yeah.
No, we're going to talk about the other two movies that are coming out in very, very limited release this week. Maria, which is in theaters, or a theater at least, and Queer, which is also in limited release.
Out on the same day, Wednesday, as Moana 2. You can make it a triple feature.
What would be the portmanteau for that?
God, you got two of them starting with M. Cool. I wanted to start with Queer, like the Q.
Interesting. How about, I was thinking Mere Era 2. Like Maria and Queer, Mere. And then 2 for Moana 2.
No.
Not buying it.
You don't need the 2.
I gotta get the thing in there, you know, put the 3 titles.
It could be like Quoria.
Quoria. Okay, sure. These are great. Don't think these are going to catch on like Glicked did. No.
Did Glicked catch on, though?
It didn't. It did not happen. These movies feel very, very similar to me. I think they're just completely in the same area code. And I think if you like one, if you've seen one, you will like the other one. That's my take.
Well, which one do you want to talk about first?
Why don't we do Maria first? Because I think that's interesting. And I'm wondering if it's as strong in certain places as like we're expecting. You're going to say yes, of course. But
I mean, it's basically 3 categories.
And I'm wondering if it's as strong in those categories as we think. But let's start with Maria first. Maria was had no distribution heading into its Venice premiere. And then Netflix scooped it up. Angelina Jolie playing Maria Callas in a Pablo Larraín movie about a great 20th century woman who has been underserved by media.
It's the final act of this trilogy.
In some ways, the most mainstream of these 3 movies.
Yes, it's the most accessible between this and Jackie and Spencer.
But I use accessible very lightly because I don't think it's like, I don't think your friend's dad is going to sit down on Netflix and load
I would never recommend this movie to any of my friends or their parents.
So accessible is more accessible compared to Spencer and Jackie, perhaps, but not accessible compared to your friend who might be like, let me go watch Glad to Aid.
Like my friend's dad is not going to watch this movie.
No. Would your friend's dad watch Piano Lesson?
Probably not. Like she still hasn't even convinced him to watch Glad to Aid yet. So
how about Blitz? Did he watch that this weekend?
No, he doesn't have Apple. I told you, I don't know anyone who has Apple. Okay,
I do. I watched Blitz this weekend.
No one in real life, in my real life, has Apple, and you don't count because you're in media. So
true. They have great programming though, Joyce.
They have a lot of good stuff, but I mean, I just like regular people in my life do not have Apple, so.
So, okay. So your friend, so it's accessible with an asterisk.
It's accessible in that it's a lot more not straightforward as in like linearity, because it jumps back and forth in time, but it's more straightforward in its narrative of like what it's trying to say about her life, and there's less like impressionistic stuff and zero supernatural stuff. If you're thinking about Spencer.
Well, yes, but like it has the Cody Smith McPhee character is not supernatural, but not
no,
legitimate.
But it's like it's not like played as like it is in Spencer.
Sure. Okay.
You know?
I understand. It's also a very straightforward music biopic, which we've seen over and over again. So like that is how it's accessible too. Saw this at Telluride. Actually, no, I saw this in New York Film Festival. I missed it at Telluride. That was my villain origin story. So I went to the wrong theater.
Of course you did.
Ran across town, dropping dead from the altitude. It was the wrong theater. So that sucked. But no, I saw it in New York Film Festival. You saw it, I think. Did you see it there or at a screening? I forget.
I was at the premiere.
You were at the premiere news, right? I was the next day.
I mean, Angelina Jolie walked right by me when I was going to the bathroom. So.
Wow. People really respond to the movie, it seems, when they see the movie. It's another one of those, right? Like people are liking Angelina Jolie's performance. Scott Feinberg in his State of the Race, Joyce, on Friday. People are giving her standing ovations, he says.
Well, she's also done a lot of Q&As.
A lot.
Screenings. So, I mean, I'll tell you, it's also the premiere, but at the premiere, a lot of clapping. Just when she started singing the first time in the movie.
Wow.
And then when the credits were rolling, obviously a lot of clapping for Ed Lockman. So.
Right now, you said three categories. It's Angie for Best Actress, Ed Lockman for Cinematography, and Great Gowns, Beautiful Gowns. As one of our emailers said recently, it is Great Gowns, Beautiful Gowns, the movie, I believe.
It is.
So of those three, I actually think Ed Lockman is the most assured of a nomination. I would really put bank on that. And he could honestly even maybe win, but I don't know if that's going to go that far, but I would absolutely put him in for nomination.
I think I know what you're going to, because you want to drop Angie. I know you do.
I do.
But I think it just feels like Jackie to me. Like Jackie got 3 for Natalie Portman, costumes and score. So just swap score for cinematography here.
I want to drop Angie, but I actually don't know if that makes sense. I've thought since I saw it, and even in the early fall, I was like, it just feels like Leo and Flower Moon to me a little, because it's like something we're all predicting and is a massive star. And then is there really enthusiasm for her performance? And I think in the industry, there probably actually is. I think in online, no one thinking about this movie, even in media circles. I don't think people really care about this movie. No disrespect to the movie or anything, but you don't see a lot of people. I see people stumping for Marianne Jean-Baptiste, like we spoke about, or Demi Moore, any one of these Best Actress contenders, Cynthia Erivo now, right, with Wicked. No one is out there being making fan edits of Angelina Jolie in Maria.
Well, maybe they will when it hits Netflix on December 11th.
Side note, what is the out of context moment of Maria that will get thrashed online like the Doctor song from Amelia Perez?
I mean, it's not going to be vilified that. It's there's not really a moment like that.
No.
So, I think that again, it's so straightforward.
I do wonder how her singing will look in 30-second Twitter videos.
Well, I mean, they've been very clear about the fact that the singing is a mix of Angie's voice and Maria's voice, because obviously she trained, but she's not an opera singer. And as the movie progresses, there's more of Angie's real voice mixed in to, the final sound, as it were. But it's not like they're going out there claiming she's doing live singing in Wicked.
No, I would say this. It's very obvious to me that she's lip syncing in the movie. I don't think
really need to accept that fact, because the movie opens with her singing. There's a shot of her singing, and you just need to accept that that's not her. Obviously, she can't replicate Maria Callas's voice,
and it's not fair. But seeing Wicked, I was like, oh, because obviously we know Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo are amazing singers, right? That's their thing. They are great singers. And it was so obvious that the voice is coming out of them. And in Maria, it's clearly the voice is not coming, even if she's being mixed in or whatever. It's not the same voice.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, who would you have cast to sing live completely? Like, who could have replicated Maria Callas's voice?
Nobody. Maria Callas'
It's
ghost,
like you could cast anyone to play Elphaba and Glinda. You know, they just need to be great singers and also good actors.
Fair. So it's more like Marion Cotillard then, right?
Yeah.
For Edith Piaf. I guess so. Like, I still have her in. I have her in 5th. Angelina Jolie. I could see her putting up to 3rd. That's where most people probably have her. I think I would say this. I wanted to drop her, and I was like, I don't know who I would drop her for. Right now, I think we have the same 5 probably because I put Marianne Jean-Baptiste in. I think so. I have her and Nicole Kidman, Mikey Madison, Carlos Sylvia-Gascon, and Angelina Jolie. And if I was going to drop Angelina Jolie, I guess it would be for right now, probably Cynthia Erivo and then Demi Moore. But like we've spoken about,
just in the afterglow of opening weekend.
Well, this like we've spoken about, I'm not convinced Cynthia Erivo is. I think she's a little like Margot Robbie, which we've said, right, in Barbie, where it's like, but also I think she could be plus Margot Robbie because I think like we've talked about the end of the movie when she's singing Defying Gravity is awesome. And like, you're going to walk out of the movie being like, this was the best. She's so amazing. I cannot believe how good it was. So that is like a different thing. Even though Margot Robbie has the great last line in Barbie, she doesn't have like Defying Gravity. So I could see it being a little different, but I'm not ready to put her in yet. And I'm not really thinking, I guess we'll see about Demi Moore, but I'm like, so Angelina Jolie maybe has arguably of those contenders, I guess. Is this the weakest movie of these the best actress contenders that we just mentioned? Is it weaker than like Baby Girl or Hard Truths will end up being?
It can wind up, it depends on like what your rubric is, because it can wind up with more nominations than both of those movies.
Correct.
But I think if you poll most people, they would say Baby Girl and Hard Truths are better movies.
So more passion behind those two than Maria.
Yeah. I mean, I think what Angie has going for her is that she is like the basic biopic pick.
Yes.
Here. And like they love a biopic performance. This is obviously not as basic as Naiad, but I think it fulfills the same zip code, for that group of voters, like the people who like this type of thing. And I don't think it's the same situation as Leo, because people just didn't like that character and his frown.
Correct.
So like, I don't think you'll come out of Maria being like, oh man, Maria Callas sucks.
No, I don't think so. I think she's pretty good, actually. It's a very sympathetic portrayal of Maria Callas, who I truly had not a clue about, Joyce. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big opera person. I mean, that's not a shock, nor a reader. So I may be not surprised that I was just like completely out of my depth with who Maria Callas was before this movie. But I can't imagine I'm actually that unique in this, right? Like, I don't think it's like
she's definitely the least well-known of Pablo's trilogy of 20th century women. So
you mentioned Annette Bening and Naiad. I think another, like Carrie Mulligan last year, Maestro, right? Another one. Anna de Armas in Blonde. This movie is way less polarizing than Blonde. I think we'll bring up Blonde when we talk about Queer in a moment, because I do think there's some comparison there. Nicole Kidman is Lucille Ball, right? Kristen Stewart for Diana, Jessica Chastain for Tammy Faye Baker. These are all the same kind of performances, right? And so like, there's no reason actually Angelina Jolie should miss. And I honestly, with the track record of this, you could argue, I mean, that she's not if she gets nominated, it's not out of the realm of possibility that she could be win competitive at the very least, right?
I'm sure. I mean, I don't know where she is in the Globes rankings. There's like the thing in front of me, but I'm sure some people have her winning the Drama Globe, because a lot of the competition is in comedy actress.
Right.
Here. So I think a lot of people think drama is between her and Nicole. So
I feel like if it was the Globes of 5 years ago, she would have won. Absolutely.
The Globes of the HFPA. I mean, the HFPA also loves Nicole, but they could also be like, oh, we just gave it to her for being the Ricardos.
Yes. I think she would have absolutely won with HFPA, and I don't know if she'll win, but I mean, she's definitely probably most likely to win, though I think Nicole maybe. I think I have Nicole winning there too. Yeah, so I'm not ready to drop her, but I guess I'm just like trying to separate the lack of interest seemingly from the pundit class or the awards, the people who follow awards versus what the industry. You have Barry Jenkins out there saying this is what comparable to Denzel Washington, Malcolm X.
No, sorry, but no. I mean, I think she's really good in it, but no.
Is there a world, though, where you think, this is why I think she could miss, though maybe this is stupid based on what we've been talking about, but I'm like, is there a world where she misses similar to like Viola Davis or Daniel Deadwyler for Till, in that like there's just like a small but passionate push at the end for Kate Winslet or like Demi Moore, whatever it is? Like, do you think there's would she be if any of those top five, like that's the top five in the odds, right? I think Marion Jean-Baptiste is now in the top five also. So the top five is what is Mikey Madison, Carlos Sofia Gascon, Nicole Kidman, Angelina Jolie, and Marion Jean-Baptiste. If one of those five were to miss for one of these later passion picks, would she be the one to miss?
I mean, she could. I don't like. It's because I could also see her getting the number ones. Like that's how Annette Bening got in over Margot Robbie. So like there are just people who like biopics. And
Angelina Jolie is still, I think, not an elder statesman. I would not call her that.
49 years old.
She's 49 years old. But outside of Nicole Kidman in this race, she feels like, I guess, like of the Hollywood stars, the veteran here, right? Like, I mean, Demi Moore obviously too, but does feel like a little different, right? Than like, she's definitely different than Carla and Mikey, obviously, even not in age, but in stature in the industry. So it does feel like she fills like a void that maybe is not there, right? A little.
Yeah. And like also when we talked about Maria back in September, like we both were like, she's really good in this, and it just made us want to see her act more. And she's acting more now. Like she just signed on to another movie. And she's talked about like how, once her youngest kids, her twins, are 18 and out of the house, like she can like do more stuff,
Right.
So, yeah. So I think like maybe there's also like a similar appetite or hunger in the industry. It's like, oh man, we've missed seeing her on screen. Like she's really great.
This is one of the things I was also wondering that I think is somewhat unanswerable. And how much hunger is there in the industry for Angelina Jolie to do more stuff?
But that's what I'm saying. I don't know. Like she hasn't acted a lot. Like we both said like we think the last movie we saw her in was Eternals. That was 3 years ago.
Yeah, she's not someone who is on screen a lot, even though she was such a major part of like
and
the
like
90s.
She did like most of her output was in the 90s and early 2000s, and then she obviously did a lot of action stuff in the 2000s. But then once she started her family, she just focused a lot on her humanitarian work, and obviously she did some stuff in the 2010s. And then she started directing. So
I gotta say, her as a director, my favorite movie of hers was By the Sea, which is completely been memory hold. I don't think anybody even talks about it, especially because it's her and Brad. But man, I thought it was really good. I think it's so much better than Unbroken.
Unbroken was like, man, a chore to get through for me.
Remember, Unbroken was like, I'm saying this having not, we're recording this on Monday, so we'll have seen A Complete Unknown, but Unbroken, and I think A Complete Unknown hopefully will be a lot better than Unbroken, but it reminds me of such when it was like, remember how it was like, man, this is it. This is like the Oscar movie, all Oscar movies, and Broken is going to do so well, and then you saw it, and it was just an absolute misery to sit through.
I mean, I don't remember how long that was, but
I think it just ended.
Like
I think it's
10 years later. 10 years later, it just ended.
It's so awful. Oh God.
Yeah, but yeah. So I don't know, but maybe like watching Maria would be a reminder. It's like, oh, she's a great actress, and right. I want to see her in more stuff.
I also think this is totally I don't even know, but I'm like, I think the performance in the movie will play better to international voters. Do you like, is that
Because
wrong?
Maria
I don't
is
know.
Greek.
I mean, basically, that's so stupid, but I'm like, what if it does?
I think the performance would speak to everybody. Like, it's just a biopic performance.
Right.
I think like maybe like your familiarity of Maria Callas would help.
Sure.
Probably. So I don't know. But
not a biopic, but certainly based on William S. Burroughs, right? It is Queer with Daniel Craig.
Yes.
Now, just going to say up front, not my fave. That means nothing. And like whether it's like it's awards. My opinion definitely doesn't matter. Just not my fave. Of the Luca Guadagnino movies that I've seen in recent years, I don't think it's like would not be one that I'm very excited.
It's not one of my faves either. Like of his movies like Challengers and Queer.
Oh, this year. Yeah. Well, I mean, Challenge is like one of the best movies of the year.
Which is like, it's funny because like Luca has talked about how much like Queer means to him, like the book and everything. And like, this is obviously his passion project.
Yes.
Right. And he's been very upfront about how he knows nothing about tennis, which is fine. But it's like, he just made a movie about relationships and power and desire. Great.
Yes.
But that's the movie that everyone likes. And Queer is going to have its passionate supporters, but I think it'll be more divisive. But that's obviously the more prestigious Oscar play for him and the film that means more to him.
100%. And there are aspects of this film, I would say, in a vacuum, all of these things are great. The score, I think, is really great. The production design is amazing. Cinematography is fantastic. The performances, Daniel Craig is great. Just as a movie and a story, it was just not engaging enough to me. I found that like my interest in the movie was like this the whole time. I'm just doing like a down. It
was like losing me as it went on. I think the strongest part is the first act.
Yes.
And I don't know if I've said this here or just like offline to you, but like I saw it at New York Film Festival at like a PNI screening, and like people like there's a moment in the third act where you think the movie's over and people were getting ready to leave. So like there were people like walking up the stairs, and then the movie is not over. There's like another like 10-15 minutes, and then they just stood on the sides. By the way, they didn't even go back to their seats, and they stood there, and the person behind me sighed. I was like, oh, like. So it was like that was the vibe at the PNI screening.
So all this is to say, I would qualify this movie as polarizing.
It's not for everybody.
And that said, I don't think anybody really expected it even before. So it was another movie like Maria that had no distribution heading into Venice, right? And then A24 picked it up after its premiere at Venice and also picked up The Brutalist. And now they like kind of like had to Jenga this release schedule together. So Queer is now on November 27th or whatever, 29th. And then Brutalist is December 20th in limited release. I don't think anybody, even before it was picked up and even before it was screened, while I think there were some high hopes for it, most people, it was like Daniel Craig, right, was the focal point. And then after the premiere and subsequent screenings, it remains Daniel Craig is the focal point as its awards.
Yes. I mean, I think some people had it in Best Picture too before it was seen anywhere.
Right.
And like probably adapted screenplay. So, but yeah, it feels like it's Daniel or bust here.
Now, in terms of adapted screenplay, I don't have it in, but that category is so wide open. If it did get in there, I guess I would not be completely surprised, but I don't think it will, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I could see like getting like critics awards, And
now for Best Actor, we've talked about this, trying to find a fifth to replace Daniel Craig has been very difficult. I have now done it, and I have Jesse Eisenberg in.
Because you copied me.
And you did it too, and you have Jesse Eisenberg in. I mostly did it because you talked to Jesse Eisenberg.
This interview by transfer, what is this?
Osmosis.
It's not osmosis. We're not asleep. It's now you're talking to people based on other people's interviews, not your own.
Maybe. Well, it was just a great interview, Joyce. That said, I still think Daniel Craig is we've talked about this in terms of a lot. I think it could just be, this is a category where there's really 4 actors seemingly who most people are predicting. And then the 5th spot is Daniel Craig, or you find someone else. And I think a lot of people Daniel Craig is great in the movie. It's obviously completely against his type or whatever, right? It's a different kind of performance for him. And not like stuff we've seen him do previously. And so I think he's actually a very beloved actor in the industry, seemingly. He's worked with a lot of different people. All of these things equal me thinking, yes, he could just easily get in, right, in that 5th spot. And it would be a low nominee and, great. But also, A Real Pain, I think, is just a stronger movie. And I think Jesse's performance in particular has really, because that movie had such a long runway from Sundance to now, I feel like his performance has continued to grow in esteem. Do you get that sense? Most people I think who I've talked to saw the movie and were like, Kieran's great. And now most of the people I'm talking to are like, man, Jesse's so great. I've really been thinking about it and this and that. So I think he's really sticking to your ribs. And I'm wondering if that's enough to put him over the top. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Daniel could, we talked about, he could just get in the 5th slot just because of a lack of competition. It's hard to try to find someone who might be significantly stronger at this juncture to confidently predict them. It feels like a lot of people are falling by the wayside, like Paul Mescal and Sebastian Stan for both movies. And then you have John David Washington, who I don't think a lot of people were, super high on, but a dark horse who could get into SAG too. It's a pretty thin field, so he could still get in, and it's a good performance, and it's something I think a lot of people argue that he'll get in because he's due for a nomination. I don't think they think about that. He hasn't been nominated, but they're not voting for him because he's never been nominated.
It doesn't feel that way because he's never made. I love.
What would you have nominated him for?
Exactly. There's nothing really that he would have ever gotten nominated for, it seems, so far in his career. But I think he's made
a lot of good movies.
Great movies, right? He's a great movie star. He's made so many good movies. So this is not he's due. It's oh, this is a guy we like, and now we have a chance to actually nominate him. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah. And yeah, I kind of feel of his competition, Jesse feels the strongest, because I think A Real Pain is probably still kind of being underestimated a little bit, maybe to its benefit almost. Yeah. It premiered at Sundance, and a lot of the hype was around Kieran, and it was always oh, Jesse will get in for screenplay.
Right.
He'll be taken care of there.
Right.
And then once A Complete Unknown was dated for this year, I think people just automatically felt that would be Searchlight's number 1. And then Timmy obviously took precedence over playing Bob Dylan over Jesse in people's minds, I think. And he's been locked in that number 4 spot since I don't know, whenever A Complete Unknown was dated in the summer. And so yeah, it feels A Real Pain is just kind of being underestimated, and I think it did open early enough, November 1st, for it to build the good momentum. Obviously, it's not doing, gangbusters at the box office, but it's doing pretty well. It's made $4 million. And it kind of sucks with Wicked and Gladiator and now Moana opening. It's going to lose theaters. It already has lost theaters this past weekend, but it's done pretty well. And I think like the response to his performance is also good. Like it's like, oh, he's just as good as Kieran. Like Kieran has the flashy part, but Jesse's just as great, and he can get in and win the Globe in comedy musical.
Correct.
You know,
and just something you said there too, that I think the reason why I've been more confident in him now over Daniel Craig, the caveat being I would not be surprised if it's just the top 5 in the odds and Daniel Craig gets in, is that when we were talking about this like recently, even as soon as as recently as like a couple of weeks ago, it was like, which of these alternates to Daniel Craig would really kind of separate, because it felt like kind of there was no consensus around who the 6th slot was. And now I feel like you were saying, with A Different Man not happening and The Apprentice not happening anymore, probably. And then with Paul Mescal taking a lot of flack for Gladiator 2, not anybody's favorite performance in the movie, though we both have said enjoyed him more in this than After Sun. It feels like those guys have kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit, and Jesse has remained ascendant and even stronger. And because the movie is seemingly so strong, I do think he has got like a legitimate shot of like getting in. I could see, like you said, if Daniel Craig got in, like we mentioned, Anna de Armas, it feels similar to me because it was another polarizing movie that premiered at Venice with a major movie star. The difference is that that's a biopic, so I think that
with the Knives Out star.
Yes, and then Bond, obviously, No Time to Die. It just felt like that because she was playing Marilyn Monroe, that made a lot more sense to me. Obviously, like, this is not the same as that, but I would not be surprised if he gets in, and it would probably feel like a little bit like her nomination for Blonde, where it's this movie. I think the response to Queer has actually been much better than the Blonde response, while they're both polarizing.
I mean, that's just like the film Twitter response.
Right.
Like, I mean, we don't know what the industry response to Queer will be yet, but obviously the industry response to Blonde was positive.
Yes.
For her, at least. I mean, remember Colin Farrell just, praising her during his speech at the Globes.
Yeah, we don't even know yet all these fun things that await us. Like, what will be the...
Yeah, like, I think the main difference between those movies is that Blonde was the villain on film Twitter. Everyone on film Twitter on the internet hated that movie, whereas Queer is a film Twitter fave.
So if he gets in, I would not be surprised. That said, I think Jesse Eisenberg has really separated himself from the other contenders, and I think is equally compelling in his movie and is a past nominee. And so all these things add up. I'm like, maybe he can get
so
in.
like the top 10 in the odds are Adrian Brody, Ray Fiennes, Colman Domingo, Timothy Chalamet, Daniel Craig, Jesse Eisenberg, Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, Paul Mescal, John David Washington, and Sebastian Stan for A Different Man. That's the top 10. And then 11 is Nicholas Hoult.
Juror number 2, maybe.
Number 12, Hugh Grant. Love this About a Boy back-to-back here.
Fantastic. And then
Glenn Powell, 13.
Did I predict him? That would be mine.
I mean, apparently 3.3% of the experts have him in. Are you that 3.3%?
No, I'm not. I'd still have him in at SAG, though. I don't know. We'll see. I think I'll be curious. Like, again, it's interesting. Like, the real response to these movies, I think, is completely meaningless. No disrespect to movies, but like Maria and Queer are not made to get like major general audience reactions. They are art house movies that are going to be geared towards art house audiences and awards voters. And so I think both of these should do pretty well. I think Daniel Craig, obviously, if he got nominated, would be really cool. I do think he'd probably be a lone nominee, though. And it's not anything, like we said, like, it's not my favorite movie, but I think you could make an easy case for it to be competitive in production design and like score and sound and cinematography, but not this year. There's just too many contenders. Like,
yeah. Where do you think it ranks in terms of A24's priorities?
Interesting question. They have so many movies.
I
actually think it's pretty high. I think The Brutalist is still their number one priority. Right? It feels like it would have to be.
Yes.
It's got the most nominations potential. It has most win potential.
Sing Sing resurgence still attempt.
Sing Sing they're not letting go. Rightfully so. I think they could see that path for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Screenplay nominations. And I think that is their second priority based on how much they've not let it go. Because Different Man, they've let go.
Different Man is last.
It's gone. That's just a goner. And that's sad, but it
should not be gone. But.
And maybe that'll get like some New York Film Critics Circle nominations, like we're saying, or it could still pop up, but I think it will pop up despite the fact that it's not a priority. Heretic, I don't think is a major priority, though I think you grant they're enjoying having that out there.
It's not like really an awards thing. It's like if something happens with it, great, you know?
We Live in Time is another one that's not an awards thing. I could see it maybe getting some shine at the Globes, I guess. Maybe. So I think Queer is probably their third priority right now behind Sing Sing, because I think The Brutalist and Sing Sing are their best picture, all category kind of hopes. Or at least The Brutalist is, then Sing Sing is like the 4 categories, and then Queer because Daniel is like kind of undeniable. And that would be the play, I guess.
Yeah, and like Sing Sing could still win ensemble at SAG.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, when people are like reticent to, when people are quick to drop Sing Sing or kind of dismiss it out of hand, that's not what they're telling you. It like literally, I get emails about this movie every week. They're doing screenings all the time. You know what I mean? Like Coleman Domingo is at every event.
Andrew Garfield just hosted one.
It's like, this movie is not, they're not letting this movie go away. That doesn't mean anything. Like, it could just not make it, but they know that the response to the movie is there when people see the movie. And so as they're mobilizing their campaign, that's probably what they're trying to do, is get more and more people to see a movie that made like $3 million over the summer and has not started streaming anywhere yet, right? It's not like, doesn't exist for real people. Like, I'm sure like my friends who are not plugged in have not even heard of this movie yet.
Oh, but, like none of my friends have heard of this movie.
I'll tell you what, if it starts streaming on like Max in January and they watch it, I guarantee I'll get a text from be like, did you see this? This is a great movie. It feels like it has that kind of potential.
I think it's sort of like the expectation going into this year for Sing Sing was that it would probably be like another Everything Everywhere for A24, right? Because I mean, that opened in March, but Sing Sing was opening in the summer. And it felt like, it could be like a moderate, like box office hit, right? And just kind of build momentum from there. And that obviously did not happen. No. So, but like, yeah, like they haven't dropped it, you know, like it's like they're still campaigning it. And, I mean, like at times it feels like it's being campaigned more than The Brutalist.
So far, I mean,
out yet, but
I absolutely think that's true right now. I mean, but it's not out yet, like you said. And maybe you're saying that people would say they need to because it's so out of sight, out of mind. But if they didn't think it had the goods, they wouldn't be doing this. They would just treat
and
it
it's definitely a movie where like they're bringing the cast everywhere, and it's like it's like a coda where like you want to meet the cast.
Yeah,
you know.
So. And they could have, like we said, like 3 Best Actor content. They could have 3 Best Actor nominees this year pretty easily. I'm every week. I'm like I have Jesse Eisenberg now. Like next week, maybe I'll have Daniel Craig again. I don't know. I'm like we've talked about. I think Jesse has a stronger movie, and maybe that gets him in. Joyce, we're gonna wrap it up. We'll be back tomorrow. Email us at slugfest@goldderby.com. We'll do our mailbag segment. I can't wait. So many emails, Joyce. I can't wait to get to these emails.
About Wicked,
about everything else. And I guess we'll talk to you then. All right, bye. For all things Hollywood competition and award season, head to goldderby.com and follow us on social media @goldderby.